The sky above Vera shimmered with soft green light. Giant crystal mountains reflected the glow, casting 1,000 tiny rainbows over the alien forest below. Strange plants, taller than houses, swayed even though no wind moved through them. Birds with translucent wings sang melodies that humans could not fully hear. But they added a calm, almost magical feeling to the air. This was not a dangerous place by nature, but the residents of Vera had always known it demanded respect. Among the glowing trees and twisting vines, a small landing pad had been cleared. On it stood a single human figure. He was tall, with broad shoulders, and his movements were careful, almost deliberate. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his eyes, sharp and clear, watched everything around him. Though he had arrived in a sleek spacecraft, he carried no unnecessary gear. Only a simple pack rested on his back. The humans had not often visited Vera, and the residents, mostly alien beings with shimmering skin and elongated limbs, were curious. They watched from a distance, whispering among themselves. Humans were known for their courage, their ability to adapt, and their strange ways, but this one seemed quiet, too quiet. Lyra, a guardian of the colony, stepped forward. She was tall and strong, with pale lavender skin and eyes that glowed faintly when she felt excitement or fear. Her duty was to protect the colony from danger, but she also oversaw visitors. Seeing a human arrive without guards or weapons made her cautious. "You are far from your home, human," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "This place can be dangerous for those who do not understand it." The human tilted his head slightly, studying her. Then he nodded, a small, polite gesture. "I am Ethan, I mean no harm," he said. His voice was soft, but it carried weight. Even without raising it, she felt that there was a strange strength behind the words. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Most humans tried to speak loudly and assert their presence. This one did not. She wondered why. Perhaps he was shy. Perhaps he was inexperienced. Perhaps he was just quiet. She had no way of knowing. "Quiet humans are unusual," Lyra said. "Do you understand our ways? Our rules?" Ethan nodded again. "I will observe and learn. I wish to respect your home." Lyra noticed his careful movements, the way he stepped over glowing roots without touching them. He did not rush. He did not stare. Yet his eyes scanned everything. Something in his calmness unsettled her slightly. Most beings, alien or human, had some nervousness when visiting Vera. Ethan had none. As they walked toward the colony, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. Lyra stopped immediately, her body tensing. "Did you feel that?" she asked. Ethan nodded, placing a hand lightly on the ground, though he did not seem worried. "Yes, it is." "Unusual," he said. Lyra frowned. Tremors were rare here. Small tremors happened occasionally, but nothing like this. They should have come from deep in the Crystal Mountains, far from the colony, and yet the tremor seemed to reach the landing pad directly, like a small warning. "Strange," Lyra murmured. "I will have to investigate. Humans are not usually sensitive to these things." Ethan's lips curved slightly. "I've noticed many things," he said. That was all. No explanation. No exaggeration. Just calm, simple words. Lyra felt both frustrated and curious. There was something about him that she could not read. He seemed ordinary, yet his calmness in the trembling moment suggested something more. As they entered the main colony, alien residents stared openly. Ethan's presence was not threatening. He moved with respect, bowing slightly to some of the elders, nodding politely to the younger guardians. Yet the tremors had left a ripple of unease among the population. Some whispered that humans could be dangerous, others that they were unpredictable. Ethan, quiet as he was, did nothing to correct either thought. Lyra led him to the central plaza, a wide-open space surrounded by crystal buildings. Sunlight filtered through the glowing mountains and reflected off the structures, creating patterns on the ground that shifted as the sun moved. It was beautiful, but it was also a place where missteps could be noticed immediately. "Rest here for a moment," Lyra said. "I will inform the council of your arrival." Ethan nodded, and he sat down quietly on a bench carved from crystal. He did not fidget. He did not appear nervous. He simply observed. Lyra walked away to speak with other guardians, explaining his arrival. But she kept glancing back. Something about him made her uneasy and intrigued at the same time. After a few minutes, the tremors grew stronger, enough to rattle crystal vases and small plants. Residents ran for safety, but Ethan remained seated. He did not panic. He did not move. He simply sat, watching, Lyra returned quickly, her steps fast and light. "Ethan, you must stand back." The tremors. Before she could finish, Ethan placed a hand on the ground. Not forcefully, not with effort, just lightly. The tremors seemed to respond to him, slightly calming in the area around his hand. Lyra's eyes widened. "How?" she whispered. "I do not know," Ethan said honestly. "I feel the vibrations, I adjust." Naturally, Lyra studied him carefully. This was unlike any human or alien she had ever seen. Humans were adaptable, yes, but this level of instinctive control over the land itself? Unheard of. "Can you stop it completely?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. Ethan shook his head. "Not entirely. But I can influence it." Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. He was not just quiet. He was controlled, calm. And yet he held power that she did not understand. For the next hour she observed him. He did not speak unless spoken to. He moved carefully through the plaza, his eyes scanning the subtle shifts in the ground and air. Residents began to notice too. Whispers ran through the crowd. "This human is not like others." Finally, Lyra spoke again, walking beside him. "Ethan, your quietness. It is strange. Most humans are loud or bold or at least impatient. You are none of these." Ethan's lips curved slightly. "I do not see the need for noise," he said simply. Lyra frowned, but there was a hint of admiration in her expression. He was unusual, yes, but there was also something noble about his restraint. Something she could not explain. As the sun set behind the crystal mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and green, another tremor shook the plaza. Smaller this time, but enough to make Lyra take a step back. Ethan did not flinch. He placed a hand lightly on the ground and the tremor seemed to lessen, spreading outward harmlessly. Lyra's eyes widened once more. You are extraordinary," she whispered. But even as she said it, she realized that extraordinary might be the wrong word. Perhaps humans could be more than she had ever imagined. Ethan looked at her, his calm eyes meeting hers. "I do not seek to be extraordinary," he said quietly. "I only act when it is needed." Lyra felt a mixture of awe and curiosity. She had thought he was just quiet. Just a human who kept to himself. But now she knew that quiet could hide something far greater, far more powerful. As night fell over the colony, the glowing plants lit the plaza in soft blues and purples. Ethan remained seated, observing. Lyra sat beside him, unable to stop her thoughts from racing. Humans, they were more than she had ever imagined, perhaps more than even the aliens of Vera could ever understand. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra felt a question forming, a question that she would need answered soon. What was Ethan's real power? And when he spoke his true name, would the tremors obey him completely? She did not yet know the answer. But she had a feeling that when it came, the quiet human would change everything. The night over Vera was calm, yet the air held tension. The soft glow of crystal mountains reflected across the alien forests, making everything appear ethereal. Yet beneath the beauty, the planet's tremors lingered, subtle and uneven, like the pulse of something alive. Lyra could feel them under her feet even as she walked beside Ethan. "You should rest," she said quietly, keeping her eyes on him. "The tremors are small now, but they may grow again. This planet does not forgive carelessness." Ethan shook his head. "Rest is not needed yet. I observe better when awake." His voice was soft, but the way he said it carried calm confidence, as if he could face any danger without hesitation. Lyra studied him. Most humans, she had learned, were restless in strange places. They needed sleep, food, comfort. Ethan did not seem to need any of these things, or if he did, he controlled himself perfectly. They walked along a narrow pathway lined with glowing vines. The path led to the base of a small crystal mountain that overlooked the colony. From there, the tremors were more noticeable. Small cracks appeared along the ground, sending tiny echoes through the plaza below. Lyra stopped. "Do you feel it again?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Ethan placed his hand on the ground lightly. His fingers did not dig in. They hovered above the surface, almost gentle. The vibrations ran along his arm and his eyes closed for a brief moment. Then he lifted his hand, and the tremors lessened, almost as if the ground obeyed him. Lyra's eyes widened. You You are sensing the tremors differently. How is this possible? Ethan shook his head. I do not know. It feels natural. Like the ground speaks, and I respond. Lyra's mind raced. She had seen humans before, but none had any connection to the land like this. Not even the oldest alien guardians had felt such a bond with the planet. For a moment, Lyra wondered if he could control it further. Could he stop the tremors completely? Could he calm Vera in ways she had never imagined? Do not touch the ground too much, she warned. You do not know what lies beneath. Vera hides many dangers. Ethan nodded. I will be careful. They continued along the pathway, moving slowly to avoid alerting the residents below. The colony, even at night, was alive with activity. Guardians patrolled the streets while engineers checked the energy systems that powered the crystal buildings. Children, curious and brave, peeked from their homes, whispering about the human who could feel the planet. Lyra noticed the whispers but did not intervene. She was torn between pride and concern. Pride that she had found a human capable of such remarkable awareness. Concern that his abilities were unknown even to himself. They reached the top of the small mountain, where the view was breathtaking. The crystal peak stretched across the horizon, and the glowing forest below looked like rivers of light. Yet the tremors were stronger here, shaking loose small stones and sending them clattering down the mountain slope. Look, Lyra said, pointing. Even from here you can see the fissures spreading. They may grow worse if we do not understand the cause. Ethan knelt and placed a hand lightly on the mountain's surface. He closed his eyes, and the faintest tremor seemed to fade around him. It is different here, he murmured. The ground. It is speaking more clearly. Lyra watched him with a mixture of awe and worry. She had trained for years to feel the subtle energies of Vera, but Ethan's connection surpassed anything she had ever known. He was not just observing, he was communicating, even if he did not speak aloud. Do you feel danger? She asked softly. Ethan shook his head slowly. Not yet, but I sense tension. Something is moving beneath the surface. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Few humans could sense danger like this, and none could do it instinctively. Her mind raced through possibilities. Was it natural tremors? Or something else? A creature, perhaps. Or worse, a rogue faction trying to disrupt the colony. Before she could ask more, a distant sound reached their ears, a low rumble growing stronger. Lyra stiffened. The tremor was larger now, shaking the mountain enough to make the stones slip and slide underfoot. Step back, she ordered, moving toward him. This is bigger than before. Ethan did not move immediately. He placed both hands on the ground and closed his eyes, as if listening to the heartbeat of the planet itself. Lyra watched, unsure if she should intervene. The tremor increased, more pronounced, and even the glowing vines swayed as if dancing to the vibrations. Ethan lifted his head, his eyes meeting hers, calm and focused. It is not harmful yet, he said. But it is restless, Lyra frowned. Restless? This is dangerous. We must warn the council. Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, but the ground, it wants to speak first. Lyra did not understand. How could the ground speak? She had walked. Vera for years felt every subtle vibration, yet this human, he seemed to hear something she could not. Together they descended the mountain carefully. Lyra noticed that Ethan's steps were precise, careful, almost as if he moved with the rhythm of the tremors themselves. She had never seen anyone walk like this, alien or human. When they reached the colony, the tremors had begun affecting buildings. Crystal panels rattled and small energy lines flickered. Residents looked on in fear, unsure of what to do. Lyra stepped forward. Ethan, please. We need to help. You must calm this before someone is hurt. Ethan nodded. He crouched near a large crystal pathway, placing his hand lightly on the surface. The tremors seemed to shift, lessening slightly where his fingers touched. Residents stared in awe. One young alien boy whispered, "He can feel it. He can control it." Lyra could only nod, amazed. Humans had always impressed her with courage and ingenuity. But this was different. This was power hidden in quietness, strength hidden in restraint. "Do you understand your power?" she asked. Ethan shook his head slowly. "Not fully. I sense. I influence. But I do not control completely." Lyra's mind raced. This human was more than she had ever expected. Quietness had hidden a connection to the very land of Vera, a connection that no alien or human had known could exist. The tremors eventually subsided, but the unease remained. Lyra and Ethan stood together in the central plaza, watching the residents cautiously resume their activities. Many whispered, many stared. Lyra turned to Ethan. "You are not just quiet, are you?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "No, I am careful. I do not need to speak to act." Lyra felt a mix of respect and unease. She had thought he was simply quiet, perhaps shy, perhaps cautious. Now she understood that quietness hid something extraordinary, something she had never expected in a human. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She sat atop the highest crystal tower, watching the stars reflected in the glowing mountains. Ethan had not asked for attention, had not claimed credit, yet his presence changed everything. Humans, she realized, carried potential that no alien could predict. Strength, wisdom, courage, and now, a connection to the planet itself. Her thoughts wandered to the tremors, growing stronger than before. If a human could sense and influence them so easily, what would happen when he fully understood his power? She knew she would have to learn more, and soon. For the quiet human who had arrived with no fanfare had already begun to shift the balance of the colony, and somewhere deep in her mind, Lyra felt the first hints of awe. Humans. They were unpredictable. Humans. They were capable of things beyond imagination. And perhaps, just perhaps, this quiet one, this Ethan, would change everything. The morning sun rose over the crystal mountains, casting golden light across the glowing forests of Vera. The colony looked peaceful from above, but a tension lingered. Small tremors had shaken the ground intermittently during the night. Some residents whispered nervously that the planet itself was angry. Lyra walked through the central plaza, observing the effects of the tremors. Tiny cracks had appeared along the crystal pathways, and a few delicate energy conduits flickered. Guardians worked quickly to repair the damage, but the unease in the air was undeniable. Ethan moved silently beside her, his gaze sweeping across the plaza. He did not speak unless necessary, but his presence was calming. Residents who had been nervous during the tremors now looked at him with curiosity, as if they sensed he could do something they could not. "Ethan," Lyra said, her voice quiet but firm, "the tremors are growing. We need to understand what is causing them before someone is hurt. Can you sense the source?" Ethan knelt, placing his hands lightly on the ground. His eyes closed, and for a moment the air seemed to hold its breath. The tremors beneath their feet were faint but consistent, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. "There," he said softly. "It is deep, under the crystal mountains." "Something moves beneath them," Lyra frowned. "Beneath the mountains? That would be impossible. No living thing can survive that deep, and the energy fields are too strong for machines to operate safely." Ethan shook his head. "It is not alive, not in the way we think. But it moves, and it reacts." Lyra's heart raced. She had seen many unusual things in her years as a guardian, but this was beyond anything she had encountered. Something beneath Vera was responding to humans, to him. Before she could ask more, a loud rumble shook the plaza. Crystal panels trembled violently, and small shards fell from the buildings. Residents screamed and scattered for safety. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm. "Step back," she shouted, panic flashing in her eyes. But Ethan did not flinch. He crouched down, placing both hands on the ground. The tremor spread outward, but where his hands touched, the vibrations seemed to lessen. Lyra's breath caught. The human who had seemed quiet, restrained, almost ordinary, was not ordinary at all. One of the younger guardians shouted, "It's too strong. The buildings will collapse." Ethan's eyes opened, calm and focused. He looked at Lyra and said, "Do not fear. I will. Try. Lyra felt a mix of awe and fear. Try. You must do it now, Ethan, stop it. He did not respond with words, only placing his hands more firmly on the crystal ground. The tremors slowed in the plaza, but the deeper rumbling continued. It was clear that the source was far beneath the surface, something enormous and ancient. Lyra stepped closer, her mind racing. Ethan, what are you? Humans cannot do this. It is impossible. Ethan's lips curved slightly, but he did not smile. I am more than you think, he said softly. But the power is not mine to command fully. It listens to my voice, my true voice. Lyra's eyes widened. Your true voice? Before she could ask more, the ground beneath the central plaza cracked open. A deep fissure spread across the crystal surface, glowing with light from the energies below. Residents screamed and ran in every direction. Guardians tried to maintain order, but fear had spread too fast. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm again. We have to do something. You can stop it, can't you? Ethan took a deep breath. I can try, if I speak my real name. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Your real name? You mean now? He nodded. His voice was calm, almost gentle, as if he were speaking a word of peace to the planet itself. Ethan, Alaric, he said clearly, the syllables rolling like soft thunder over the crystal pathways. The ground trembled violently. A shockwave spread outward, shaking buildings and trees. Residents screamed and clutched each other, fearing the plaza would collapse. Lyra instinctively raised her arms to protect them. Then slowly, the tremors began to respond to him. The fissures slowed, the shaking lessened, and the glow from the cracks dimmed. The power that had seemed uncontrollable bowed to his voice. Lyra's eyes widened in disbelief. It obeys you, she whispered. Ethan nodded. It listens to the truth. My name carries more than sound. It carries connection. The plaza fell silent. Residents slowly emerged from hiding, staring in awe at the quiet human who had calmed the disaster with nothing but words and presence. Even the Guardians were speechless. Lyra felt a mix of fear and admiration. She had always known humans were courageous, capable of adapting and clever, but she had never imagined they could carry such raw natural power. Quiet had hidden strength, restraint had hidden force. Do you understand now? Ethan asked softly, looking at her. I am not loud. I do not need to shout. But when it is necessary, I can act, and the world listens. Lyra nodded slowly, barely able to speak. I understand. You are extraordinary. Ethan did not smile. I do not seek to be extraordinary. I only act when needed. Lyra's mind raced. Humans, she realized, carried potential beyond even what aliens could imagine. Strength, courage, wisdom, and now, the ability to influence the planet itself. The tremors eventually faded completely, leaving only faint cracks along the plaza. Residents cautiously approached, their eyes wide with awe. Whispers spread like wildfire. The human. He speaks and the ground obeys. One of the elders stepped forward, trembling slightly. What is this? How can a human do such a thing? Lyra looked at Ethan, then back at the elder. He has got more than you know, and it is not just power. It is discipline, patience, and restraint. Ethan stood quietly, observing the reactions around him. His calm demeanor did not falter even as everyone looked at him in amazement. A young boy approached, curiosity shining in his eyes. Sir, can you do it again? He asked. Ethan knelt down to meet the boy's gaze. Not now. The world is balanced again. Power is not for showing, it is for protecting. Lyra smiled faintly, pride and awe mixing together. She realized that she had misjudged him. Quietness had hidden something far greater than any words could express. Humans, they were not limited to strength or weapons. They carried a depth of courage, patience, and hidden power that aliens like her had never imagined. As the sun climbed higher, casting light over the calm colony, Lyra and Ethan walked side by side through the plaza. Residents watched silently, still unsure what to make of the quiet human who had calmed the ground with his true name. Ethan, Lyra said softly, breaking the silence, you have changed everything here. Do you realize that? He nodded slowly. I do not seek to change anything, but the world responds to truth. Lyra's eyes met his. For the first time she felt true respect mixed with awe. Quiet had hidden power, restraint had hidden courage, and humans were more than anyone could predict. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The tremors had revealed his potential, but there was more to learn, more to understand. Humans were capable of so much more than aliens had imagined. And Ethan, the quiet human who had spoken his real name, was the proof. The day ended with the colony in quiet celebration. Repairs would take time, and the tremors remained a mystery in the depths of Vera. But one thing was clear. The quiet human had shown them that courage, discipline, and hidden strength could change the world without violence or force. Lyra looked at him again as the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the mountains. "You are not just quiet," she whispered. "You are something more. Something we do not fully understand." Ethan's eyes met hers, calm, patient, and steady. "I am simply human," he said softly. "But humans, we have potential that is often hidden, and sometimes it is revealed when the world needs it most." For the first time, Lyra understood that quietness was not weakness. Patience was not passivity. And humans were capable of wonders that even the strongest aliens could never imagine. And she knew, without a doubt, that when Ethan's full power was revealed, it would shake not just the colony, but the world itself. The day after the tremors had shaken the colony, Vera was alive with nervous energy. The residents worked tirelessly to repair the crystal pathways and strengthen the buildings. Yet the unease remained, like a shadow over the glowing forests and shimmering mountains. Lyra stood atop one of the repaired towers, scanning the horizon. Even from this height, she could see fissures in distant valleys, glowing faintly with the planet's energy. The tremors were not fully gone. They were only subdued. Something deep below the mountain stirred, and she knew that their earlier relief had been temporary. Ethan approached quietly, his presence calm and reassuring. He did not speak at first, simply observing the repairs and the movement of the residents. Lyra noticed that the villagers now looked at him with quiet reverence. Not fear, not suspicion, but awe. He had changed their perception of humans in a single day. "Ethan," Lyra said softly, turning to him, "we need to understand what is beneath the mountains. These tremors are growing. If we do not act, someone may be hurt or worse." Ethan nodded. "I can feel it. The movement is deeper than before. It reacts to everything. The colony, the planet, even us." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to act together. You cannot face this alone, and I cannot stop it without your help." Ethan studied her for a moment. "I am not used to working closely with others," he said honestly. "But I will try. If it is necessary, I will act with you." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans were often solitary, especially in foreign worlds. But this quiet one had already proven that strength was not just in muscle or weapons. It was in calm, steady presence. Together they could do more than she had imagined. The two of them descended into the lower valleys where the glow from the fissures was stronger. The energy from the planet pulsed beneath their feet like a heartbeat. Every step seemed to echo in the deep tunnels below. Guardians followed cautiously, giving them space while remaining ready to intervene. "Be careful," Lyra warned. "The ground here is unstable. One wrong step could trigger another tremor." Ethan nodded, moving slowly, his eyes scanning the cracks and fissures. He paused occasionally, placing a hand lightly on the ground. At those moments, the trembling lessened slightly, but only briefly. The energy below was persistent, as if testing them. "Do you feel it?" Lyra asked after a moment. "What is it trying to tell us?" Ethan shook his head. "It is not speaking in words. It is like a rhythm. It moves, it responds, it reacts. But it is not angry, it is aware." Lyra frowned. "Aware? You mean the planet itself is conscious?" Ethan did not answer immediately. He crouched, closing his eyes as if listening to a distant song. "Not like we are, but it has memory. It remembers everything, and it reacts when something unusual approaches." Lyra's mind raced. The tremors, the fissures, the movement beneath the mountains. Everything pointed to something ancient and powerful. And now, with Ethan here, the planet itself seemed to acknowledge him. Suddenly, a massive tremor shook the valley. Guardians stumbled and loose rocks fell from the cliffs. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm. "Now," she shouted. Ethan placed both hands firmly on the ground, focusing. The tremor's intensity lessened slightly, but the fissures widened. The energy below was strong, unpredictable, and alive. Lyra realized they could not simply calm the tremors. They needed to guide the energy, to work with it, not against it. She stepped forward, placing her hands near Ethan's, joining him. Together they could sense the patterns of the movement, the rhythm of the planet's energy. Focus with me, Lyra instructed. Match the rhythm. Listen to it, don't fight it. Ethan nodded. Slowly, carefully, they adjusted their movements. The tremors began to subside in their immediate area, though the distant fissures still glowed. Residents who had gathered watched silently, witnessing a human and an alien working together to calm the living energy of Vera. Lyra glanced at Ethan. "You are incredible," she said softly. "I thought humans were brave and clever. I did not expect this." Ethan shook his head. "I do not seek to be incredible. I only act when necessary. That is all." Lyra could not help but smile faintly. He spoke with humility, yet his actions revealed power and control beyond imagination. Humans, she realized, were capable of more than she had ever understood: courage, discipline, and patience. These were strengths that surpassed the expectations of even the most powerful aliens. Hours passed as they worked together, guiding the energy to settle into the fissures safely. Slowly, the tremors began to calm and the glow from the cracks dimmed. The valley was not fully safe, but it was stable enough for residents to return cautiously. "We did it," Lyra said quietly, relief evident in her voice. "For now, the valley is safe." Ethan nodded, though he remained vigilant. "It will remain calm only if it is respected. The planet remembers, and it reacts to everything." Lyra's respect for him deepened. Humans had always impressed her with ingenuity and courage, but this was extraordinary. Quiet had hidden strength. Restraint had hidden power. And humans could achieve the impossible when guided by wisdom and care. "Thank you," she said softly, looking at him. "Not many could have done this." Ethan simply nodded. "I do not seek thanks. Only understanding. That is what matters." As night fell over the valley, the stars reflected on the crystal mountains, painting the world in silver and blue. Lyra and Ethan stood together on a ridge looking down at the valley below. Guardians worked quietly to repair damage, while residents whispered in awe about the human who had spoken and calmed the tremors. "Lyra," Ethan said quietly. "You trust me?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "I do, and you have earned that trust. Not through words, but through your actions." Ethan's eyes met hers, calm and steady. "Then we must continue together. The planet, it will test us again, and next time it may not be as easy." Lyra felt a shiver run through her. She knew he was right. The tremors had revealed his potential, but they had also revealed something deeper. A challenge, ancient and powerful, waited beneath the mountains. And together, human and alien, they would need to face it. Over the next days, Lyra and Ethan worked closely. He taught her to sense subtle vibrations in the ground, and she shared knowledge of the planet's energy flows. Guardians watched in amazement as the human learned quickly, adapting to Vera's rhythms almost instinctively. "Humans are remarkable," Lyra said one evening. "I thought courage was about action, but it is also about understanding. You show both." Ethan smiled faintly. "We learn quickly when necessary, and we do what is needed. That is all." Lyra realized she had underestimated humans. Their patience, their discipline, their quiet strength. It was not just survival. It was mastery. And in Ethan, she had seen the potential of an entire species, one that could match or surpass even the most powerful aliens if given the opportunity. One night, as the valley rested under the soft glow of the crystal moon, a distant rumble echoed from deep within the mountains. Lyra's heart quickened. "It begins again," she whispered. Ethan placed a hand lightly on the ground, closing his eyes. "I can feel it, but we are ready. Together we can face it." Lyra nodded, placing her hand over his. "Together," she agreed. For the first time, she felt the full weight of human potential. Not loud, not brash, but quiet, steady, and unstoppable when guided by purpose. And as the tremors stirred once more beneath Vera, she knew that the quiet human by her side, Ethan, was the key to facing whatever ancient power lay hidden beneath the crystal mountains. Humans, she realized, were capable of wonders beyond imagination, and with courage, discipline, and partnership they could change the course of worlds. The valley below Vera had grown quiet, but the calm was deceptive. The tremors beneath the mountains pulsed faintly, like the heartbeat of something ancient and powerful. Lyra and Ethan stood atop a crystal ridge, watching the distant glow that hinted at the unrest still hidden below. "This will not end without action," Lyra said, her voice steady but urgent. "The planet is testing us." "I can feel it." Ethan placed a hand lightly on the ground, closing his eyes. "Yes, I feel it too. It is stronger than before, and it knows we are ready." The humans who had visited other planets often relied on weapons or technology. Ethan relied on patience, understanding, and discipline. His calm presence was a force the tremors seemed to recognize. Lyra had watched him for days, yet each new tremor revealed more about the quiet human's hidden strength. "Lyra," Ethan said softly, opening his eyes to meet hers. "When I speak my real name, the tremors respond. It is not power for destruction. It is power for balance," Lyra nodded. She had seen him do it once before, calming the ground with nothing more than his voice and presence. But this time the tremors were greater. The planet itself was testing them, and she knew they would need all their focus and courage. The distant glow from the fissures intensified suddenly. A wave of energy surged upward, shaking the valley violently. Crystal panels trembled and fell, and loose rocks tumbled down the cliffs. Residents screamed and scrambled for safety. "Now!" Lyra shouted. Ethan knelt, placing both hands on the ground. His lips moved, whispering his real name, Alaric, and a low hum seemed to echo through the valley. The tremors shifted immediately, reacting to his voice. The ground beneath the plaza heaved slightly, then began to settle. Lyra joined him, placing her hands lightly on the ground beside his. She focused on the rhythm of the planet's energy, matching her breath to the subtle pulses. Together, human and alien, they became one with the living planet. The tremors responded. The fissures' glow dimmed and the violent shaking lessened. Residents who had been hiding cautiously peeked out, watching in awe. The valley was stabilizing under their combined effort, but the ancient energy beneath the mountains was strong, more than they could fully control. A massive fissure opened near the base of the mountains, glowing brighter than ever. Lyra felt fear rise in her chest. If it erupted, the entire colony could be destroyed. "Ethan," she said urgently, "we cannot hold it much longer." He looked at her calmly. "I know, it is time. I must speak fully, and embrace what I am." Lyra's eyes widened. "Your real name?" Now he nodded. The words were more than sound. They carried truth, history, and connection. Slowly, he spoke aloud, clearly and powerfully. "Alaric." The valley trembled violently, more than before. Buildings shook and the ground cracked further. But this time, the tremors were responding to him, bending to his control. Light and energy pulsed around him, and a wave of calm spread outward from his position. Lyra felt her heart race. She had never seen such power, such quiet strength. The human before her was not just brave. He was not just disciplined. He was a force of nature, a reminder that humans could achieve the impossible when they acted with purpose and restraint. The rogue faction that had tried to exploit the fissures earlier, now visible in the valley below, paused in awe. They had expected fear, hesitation, or retreat. Instead, they saw a human and an alien standing together, controlling the living energy of the planet itself. "Lyra," Ethan said calmly, "we must guide it, not fight it. Let it find its balance." Lyra nodded. She had learned his ways over the past days. Patience, focus, and understanding were stronger than brute force. Together they moved carefully, hands on the ground, feeling the rhythm of Vera. The tremors shifted under their guidance, energy flowing safely into fissures and cracks, the light dimming to a calm glow. The rogue faction, realizing their plan had failed, tried one final attack, thinking they could disrupt the balance. They raised weapons and advanced, but the ground beneath them shifted, sending them stumbling and falling. They could not control what they did not understand. Ethan's voice rose slightly, steady and calm. "Alaric!" A shockwave spread outward, neutralizing the attack without harming the residents. The faction scrambled, defeated not by weapons but by the harmony of a human's presence and a planet's response. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes wide with awe. "I never imagined humans could do this," she whispered. Ethan shook his head gently. "I do not seek recognition. Humans are capable of more than many realize. Courage, discipline, restraint, these are our strength." Lyra realized the truth of his words. She had seen bravery before, cleverness, even cunning, but never such quiet, controlled force. Humans were unpredictable, capable of feats beyond expectation when guided by purpose. The tremors finally ceased. The valley was calm. Fissures glowed softly but were stable. Residents emerged cautiously, eyes wide with admiration and wonder. Whispers spread. The human, he spoke, and the ground obeyed. Lyra turned to Ethan. You have changed the way we see humans. Not just here, but everywhere. You are extraordinary. Ethan shook his head. I am simply human. We learn, we adapt, we act when needed. That is all. Lyra smiled, a mix of pride and awe in her eyes. And yet that is enough. That is more than enough. As the sun set behind the crystal mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet, the colony celebrated quietly. The tremors had revealed a hidden potential, and humans, through Ethan, had proven that courage, wisdom, and restraint could surpass even the most powerful forces of the planet. Lyra watched him, understanding fully now. Quietness was not weakness. Patience was not passivity. Humans could act in ways that no one anticipated, changing the world not through force alone, but through presence, understanding, and purpose. Thank you, she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. Ethan looked at her calmly, his voice steady. There's no need for thanks. The world, it responds to truth. That is all, Lyra nodded. Then let us continue together. Whatever challenges arise, we will face them side by side. Ethan smiled faintly. Together. As night fell, the stars reflected across the glowing forests and crystal mountains, a soft light illuminating the valley. Lyra realized that she had witnessed more than courage or power. She had witnessed the true potential of humanity, calm, controlled, disciplined, and ready to rise to any challenge. And deep within her, she knew the lesson would last forever. Humans could do the impossible. They could inspire, protect, and even command the very forces of the world if they acted with patience, wisdom, and courage. Ethan, quiet and calm, stood as a symbol of that truth. A human who had spoken his real name and in doing so changed the fate of an entire planet. And Vera had learned something new that day. Humans were not just visitors. They were extraordinary. They were powerful. They were capable of wonders beyond imagination. Lyra glanced at Ethan one last time that night. You were never just quiet, she whispered. You were always everything the world needed you to be. Ethan nodded, the calm strength in his eyes reflecting the stars above. And we will continue to be whenever we are needed. The colony slept peacefully that night, and for the first time the tremors did not return. Not because the energy had been conquered, but because it had been understood. Guided by human wisdom, the planet had found balance, and humanity had been revealed.